Sure, let's get started. So just to navigate through the next 30 minutes, right? These are the 4 pointers we'll be going through. First, we'll just understand like what are the top question in your mind could be what are the roles and responsibility of product manager, right? We'll just have a brief overview over a couple of minutes. Majorly, we'll focus on how to get into the PM role in terms of what our companies and interviewers are looking for, and how can I start the preparation or strengthen my preparation if you're already doing it, and how to crack product case studies. That's going to be the major focus for this discussion. In that also what to expect and how to prepare for specific types of case studies, and what are the resources you can start with, and then we'll open for the Q&A part. So just let's start with what are the responsibilities and roles of a product manager. So PM role is someone who is consistently turning kind of high ambiguity to clarity, to alignment, plans, and shipping to product. As you join any organization, for the first few months, you will be majorly focusing on executing the plans, right? Over the next few months, you will start aligning different stakeholders and then planning the execution and shipping the products, right? As you progress in your career, right, you move more towards the ambiguity part as well, right? In later years, you'll be handling end-to-end from ambiguous problem to well-defined solution and well-defined product. And as in senior roles, it's more towards ambiguity to alignments on various bigger product strategy decisions, right? So this is just to give you put perspective here. If you look at what are skills are required in terms of acing the PM role, right? Once you get into the PM role. So these are majorly 4 different themes like strategic, planning, execution, and measurement, right? In terms of strategic, what a PM is required to do is basically discover, deconstruct, and define a problem that is valuable to solve. Then outline the feasible solutions to that problems and their benefits. Then predicting the hurdles to the solutions, right? Because there could be multiple possible solutions, but not each of them can go through. That's the strategic part of it. In the planning part, converting these solutions to phases and projects, right? And in communicating these problems, solution, and phases to various stakeholders, because there could be multiple stakeholders who are concerned about a particular product, right? Then comes the execution part where you catalyze the decisions and solution in the meetings. PM is generally occupied with a lot of back-to-back meetings where they are catalyzing these decisions. Then documenting and executing the project so that everyone is on the same page, presenting the impact of the projects and solutions to stakeholders. And then finally measuring the product success in terms of conducting client or user surveys, and then reporting and analyzing the metrics, right? So these are this is basically an end-to-end spectrum of skills which a PM requires, right? So in most of the PM roles, all these skills need to be ticked and continuously improved upon, right? So just to get perspective of what is the difference between product management and a project management, for some of these skills, project management might be focused on few specific skills, right? Maybe more on strategic, or it could be more on execution, but a product person is basically involved with all of these steps. So that's just identification of how we can differentiate between these 2 roles, right? Now we have gone through this. Let's now start looking into what our companies are basically looking for in a PM candidate, right? So they are looking for a candidate who can consistently execute clear and highly structured logical decision making while operating under several constraints. So just focus on the bold word, right? There are a lot of probably few jargons here, but let's deconstruct this further. What we mean by clear is, because in a PM role, there will be multiple stakeholders present at any point of time. So we need to be very clear about what problem we are solving and how we are going to solve it. We need to be highly structured in terms of why, because the product nuances tend to become complicated as the product becomes more mature, right? Decision making is also important because PM needs to collect all the inputs and suggestions to make a final execution plan. And why several constraints? Because the technical bandwidth across companies is often limited, right? Now, how can an interviewer judge all of these skills in, let's say, 1 hour interview, right? So to judge this, basically, so the judgment is done based on how well you are able to communicate your approach towards the solution, how you are able to break down the problem statement, how well you are able to synthesize your solutions, and how well you are able to prioritize them. Right? Apart from the case interviews, there are of course other aspects. How do you test the consistency? The consistency is tested by the resume or the product portfolio or the past work experience. And the fitment test is also another aspect where the behavioral question helps in judging the desired attitude of a required role. Right? So this fitment test happens from the both side. Candidate also assesses the company also assesses the candidate. Right? So these are basically the six factors generally which companies look for in the candidate. Now, as an aspirant, right, how can you start your PM journey? So this is I just put together a checklist for your PM preparation journey. So the first come is a resume preparation, right? I'm sure you must be having a working resume which you keep on updating over the time and again, right? So we are not, of course, going into a lot of details of the resume preparation, but just to highlight 2 points is, one is basically how you build your resume. Building your resume involves a lot of elements like live projects, part-time internship, building website or software products by yourself or in a group, building PM portfolios, and doing certain certification courses which are related to analytics and products, right? And then again, forming these points into resume. This is just a format I have just put together, is what you have done, impact, and how or scale, right? So this is just a summary of your resume preparation. Second point comes is case interview preparation. That's a major chunk of it. So there are 3 elements: understanding various types of case interviews, then understanding the frameworks to break down the problems and cracking the cases. And so the A and B could be a learning part of it, but C is a practicing part of it, which is practicing the mock case interviews and having fun doing it, right? Because that your actual job will be very close to what you work with the case interviews. Third aspect of preparation is about industry or product research. So learning about the product offerings of the target company. Wherever you are applying, you should have a thorough knowledge of what that company does and the concerned product, what are their offerings and how that product functions. Not only that company, but how the product functions across various competitors as well, right? The second element is about the consumer psychology of a target user of that company, right? Someone, let's say a company like Facebook or a company like Ola, there could be different consumer psychology involved in those products. We need to understand them before appearing for the interview of those companies. And then staying on toes in the product world about the latest happening or the latest product releases, right? And then there comes a behavioral part of question by displaying your right attitude and ensuring the company is good fit for you. So these are 4 major broad points. Here, basically, in next 20 minutes, we'll be more focusing on the case interview preparation. So let's get started with it, right? So the first step, let's understand what are the various types of product case problem statements there. One very common, which is product design questions, where basically, so I have just added a format of the problem statement, right? Like design ABC. Like let's say example, you're a PM at YouTube and you want to build a paid subscriber product for creators. So this is a new product design. Another could be product modification. Like example, design ABC for XYZ or improve ABC or your favorite product. So this is a very common question in general in the product interview, is they start with a favorite product, ask for your what is your favorite product, why it is favorite product, and then the follow-up question is basically based on modifying a certain aspect of that product, right? Example here is like design Ola caps for kids. This is basically a product modification question. Another type of case types is product strategy question. Like example, should ABC enter into XYZ market, right? Let's say, should Google enter ride hailing market? So this is a product strategy question. Another one type is root cause analysis question. ABC product observing XYZ problem, how to solve it, or what are the cause for it, right? So example, Zomato is observing high drop off at cart to checkout screen. What caused it and how to solve it? This could be a starting point of your problem case interview. Another type of problem could be product measurement. Like how will you measure XYZ product success, right? How will you measure, let's say, product success of Facebook like button? Another part of it, which is very common and it is also common across other type of interviews, is more of a guesstimates or market sizing, where you are asked to estimate number of XYZ, right? Could be estimated number of rides per day done by Ola cabs. Seventh one is ideation problem. It could be a open-ended question like how can ABC build product in XYZ domain, right? It's very similar to strategy question, but strategy, it is basically it's given and it's the answer is expected in terms of yes or no. 7 is more of a ideation problem where we are asked how can they do it, right? So yeah, that's a ideation problem. Of course, there are some more type of case interviews, case studies, which could be different from this, but these are the most common cases which are asked in the product interviews, right? So let's start with some of them, right? Over the next 5 minutes, we'll just go through some of the frameworks which we can use to, answer these type of question and keep thinking about so that we can, practice it more, right? Let's focus on product design or modification questions. So let's say a statement like design Ola cabs for kids, right? So how do we approach this question even, right? So there is one method, there is one framework which is widely used across industry, across interviews, is circles method, right? This is the foundation of product case interviews. Circles basically C stands for comprehending situation, right? Like what, who, why, how. Let's take example of design Ola cabs for kids. So first we'll have to understand that what exactly we are designing, who we are designing, who is basically kids, right? So why we are designing it, what is the goal of that product, and how we are going to design it, right? So this comprehensive situation is more of a understanding the situation we are posed with, right? Second one is I stand for identifying customer personas. Here, kids is clearly a persona, but there are, apart from kids, there are more user personas as well, right? Because parents will be also involved, because parents will be booking cabs for their kids, let's say example, right? In this case. So identifying customers and users is important, right? Because users and customers could be different. User could be someone who is using the product, customers could be someone who is actually paying for that product, right? Then the reporting customer needs. So here in this case, how are kids going to use, what are their needs so that we can build this product for them, right? Then cutting through prioritization, that, okay, there could be 5 different ways through which we can build this product for them. Which one makes more sense, right? And which there could be, let's say, 5 different user needs in a way, which need we want to prioritize for, right? Then for that need, we will list down the solutions. Okay, these are the 5-6 solutions through which we can solve this problem. And then of course, we'll have to evaluate the trade-off between these solutions and then summarize the recommendations. So this is a flow of problem solving approach. Of course, how do you communicate this with interviewer is first, when your problem is given, you first take few minutes, ask clarifying questions, then just bounce the idea of how you're planning to solve this problem to your interviewer, right? Of course, you don't say that, okay, I'll be using circles framework, but this ideology you will be communicating with interviewer that, okay, this is the approach I'm going to follow, and then keep following each step so that you don't miss out on any major point, and then summarize your recommendations in a solution format, right? Couple of tips here. One is, of course, call out interviewer that you'll be following this thought process. This is true across all the type of product cases, so that you don't need to you shouldn't actually, right, do all your work for, let's say, 10 minutes and then after 10 minutes directly speaking to interviewer. You should continuously keep on communicating your approach so that you can also course correct whenever you are going on wrong direction, right? Second tip is basically whenever you are in doubt, you can use circles. This is basically a classic problem solving framework for the product case interviews. It is the most versatile framework, which probably can be also extended to other type of cases. Another one is product strategy cases. Basically, when problem statement is more strategic in nature, right? Like should ABC enter into XYZ market? So here, how do you approach this problem, right? This could look like a overwhelming problem. So first, what we do is we understand the mission of the company. Let's say we are asked about should Google enter into ride-hailing market, right? So now what is the mission or vision of Google, right? It's basically, let's say, organizing all the information in the world in more consumable way. So let's say a mission for the Google, right? So first we will have to understand that. So one hack here is basically all the major companies, right? Google, Facebook, Amazon. So just go through, read about their mission and vision, and just have it with you as documented, so that, because most of the questions are generally, when they are product strategy question, they are mostly linked with these big companies. Or if it's a new company, you can of course ask the interviewer that what is the mission or vision of this company. Probably I'm not aware about this company. And then that would be your first step in terms of understanding what the company stands for or what is their vision, right? And it includes the present and future, because probably they might be looking for a future prospect. Second one is identifying the company's existing product capabilities, right? Let's say Google here in this case. So what are the core competencies of Google, right? That is very important to understand. And also additionally, what are the adjacent capabilities which can be developed easily by that company to capture into that opportunity, right? That's the second point. Third, then you can move on to understanding what are the capabilities required for the new product. Let's say here, ride hailing product, right? So what are the capabilities required for that? Now here in the fourth point, you then merge the second and third, right? Does company have product capabilities or adjacent capabilities which can meet the requirement, right? And provide a competitive edge for that company. So this is where the both of these ideas come together. And then as a strategy, you can then plan your solution accordingly. So these are basically typical product strategy questions, which this is an approach probably we can follow, but of course we'll have to modify it as the problem statement changes, right? And of course, a fifth additional point is understanding, does the success in the new product strengthen the existing business? This helps us in prioritizing the new market segment, right? Either it could be locking users or creating modes for that company, etc. A fourth type of cases are basically root cause analysis question. These are also quite common and very interesting to solve actually. And there is no one specific framework to that, but basically a thought process which I would like to share with you. So let's say a problem statement where we are posed with a question to analyze a certain situation and solve for it, right? Like example, we saw Zomato is observing high drop off at cart to checkout screen. So we want to understand what caused it and how to solve it, right? So this is a thought process. Generally, it's followed. We can follow here. First, we should define the problem better, right? Here we have certain terms: Zomato, drop off, cart, checkout screen, right? So what we first need to do is basically ask clarifying questions in terms of example, like since when we are observing this drop off, how we identified this problem, right? In which specific scenarios these cases are happening, right? So all the hidden information which interviewer hasn't shared with us upfront, we should ask for that information so that we can define the problem better, right? Once we have defined it better, we then ask for the supporting data. That, let's say we ask for a cart drop off, right? Then we can then go deeper into what is the delta of the cart drop off, right? And then have we observed it into a specific type of orders, specific type of order values, etc. We can ask more data about a particular situation which we have isolated. Then we identify any issues that could have contributed to that problem, right? Then we start breaking down that problem. Let's say example, we got information from interviewer that, okay, we started observing this drop off since last 1 week, right? Then we start breaking down this problem. Okay, have we then observed it across a day or a particular type of day or a particular type of order, etc. Additional questions we can ask, right? And then break down the problem to build hypothesis. One, just to give you example, some hypothesis could be, let's say we are doing some A/B testing in the cart page that could have caused a drop off, or let's say there is an offer section. Let's say earlier 30% people were using the offer, now only 20% people are able to use the offer because of some external factors. The number of offers has reduced. This could cause the cart drop off. So we'll have to build hypothesis which could have contributed to the problem. Then each of these hypotheses we validate by asking more relevant question, right? So asking question is the most important part in this root cause analysis type questions, because we are not actually solving for using the data, but we are basically isolating and validating the hypothesis behind the problems. After validating the hypothesis, then we move to the last part, which is basically identifying the possible solution for that, and then creating a narrative around it and synthesize the recommendations for the case, right? So as asking question is the most important part here, I just wanted to add some list of questions which we could ask in such situation, right? So example of clarifying questions at various points could be like just focus on the first column, right? It could be metric related, right? When we say card drop off, then how the metric is defined is most important. How we calculate that metric is important, right? Once we say, let's say we have seen drop off, right? So since when we have seen the drop off, what is the time duration for it? Was it sudden? Was it gradual? Was it seasonality involved? Let's say there was some festival season based on which the cart creations increased. Was it across industry or a company specific, right? Then it could be segment basis. Let's say mobile, desktop. There was some experiment going on, let's say on Android. So we saw drop off only on Android, right? It could be the cases. So we'll have to segment this problem better. It could be geography specific. It could be based on type of users, or it could be based on a product type, right? Let's say a specific category. Let's say breakfast order have seen drop off in cart completions. So these are the basically clarifying question. Some of the other, for different type of problem statement, there is another very interesting framework to look at it is basically internal factors and external factors, right? Any problem companies facing could be because of some internal issues or some external issues. So it's just breaking down into two. In internal, we look for user journey, that how user has progressed, how user uses that product, and at which specific part the problem is arising, right? That could help us in isolating the situation. Then it could be based on any marketing communication changes, or it could be based on any tech or engineering related changes based on A/B testing. It could be UI. Let's say we reduce the size of the submit button or apply button, right? It could also change if we change the color, right? So there are a lot of smaller elements also which can contribute to that cause. So all of these are internal. There could be some external factors as well. Let's say delivery people are going on strike and then the delivery charges increased. Because of that, the cart completion drop, or let's say there could be competition led as well. That let's say competition has reduced their delivery fees and we haven't reduced. That could be the reason. That could be external reason, right? Let's say there are some government regulation changes. There could be some environmental factor, or let's say there is a bad PR in the media that, let's say Zomato has added some extra hidden charges. Now people are just coming on cart to see the charge, but then of course they are not completing the order, right? So this could be an external factor. So it's important. This is just a framework to identify the problem area and build hypothesis around it. So yeah, these are the various questions. Of course, there could be more question if you think on these lines. Yeah, so this is a typical root cause type case. Let's move to our next type of case, which is product metric measurement case, right? Let's say when problem statement is metric driven, right? How will you, let's say example, how will you measure XYZ product success, right? Example, how will you measure success of Facebook like button? So this was the question I was asked actually in one of my own interview when I sat for the campus placements, right? So this is quite a typical question which gets asked, right? So how do you address this question, right? So such questions we can look at from the point of view of user journey. Okay, so let's say, for example, let's take example of Facebook like button, right? So Facebook like button has basically two user journeys. One who is a creator. Let's say I'm a creator. I created some content. I posted it, and how people are using like, how people are hitting like, also defines the success for creator, right? Success could be from another angle, which is the viewer. If viewer is liking the content, that person is clicking the like button, right? So there are two users primarily here. So we'll have to look the success of Facebook like button from the two perspectives here, right? So that's how you identify there are two different user journeys. And then through this user journey, then there are certain metrics which let's break down the user journey into a few aspects, right? So the first is acquisition, that how many users discovered our product various channels, right? Let's say how many people, in this case, how many new people are liking, unique people are liking the hitting the like button. This could be acquisition, right? Acquisition for like button could be also standalone a different metric, right? Another is activation, right? Let's say someone who has signed up on Facebook, what percentage of users have actually liked any content on the Facebook, right? That could be a metric. That could probably, as a PM, you might want to measure that metric, right, as a success metric. So in more general cases, how many users took action that we want them to take, right? Let's say someone who has signed up, how many of them have done the first order? Another way of looking at this metric could be retention, right? And engagement, that how well the activated users are engaging and returning back. In context of our example, this could be more of related to a person who likes the Facebook, any Facebook content, how frequently they are liking other content as well, right? It could be related to how much they are engaging with other content on the site. Another could be referral. So referral probably in this case might not be very relevant, but also what could happen is if let's say in case of LinkedIn, right, I'm liking some content, now it gets referred to other people as well. So that also defines the success, right? So do users like product enough to tell others about it, right? That could be a referral aspect. Another is a revenue aspect. Now it's very interesting, right? How can you connect Facebook like button metric with a revenue number, right? This is generally a most common business problem which a product person is posed with, right? Whatever product you're working on, how much revenue impact it is going to have, right? It's not very straightforward to estimate in each of these cases. So we will have to then identify how much value that product is capturing from the user. It could be direct or it could be indirect. Here it could be in an indirect format as well. Let's say people are liking content on the Facebook. Because of that, the creators are posting more videos. Now creators are posting more videos so that then we can serve more ads. And because we are able to serve more ads, we are able to extract more revenue from users, right? So now this is an indirect link of our product with the revenue. So this could be also a success metric, right? So these are the possible success metrics. Then of course, depending on the problem case, we'll have to identify which one makes more sense and then list down a couple of metrics that we should be targeting, we should be tracking for measuring the success of a said product, right? Let's move on to next type of question, which is very generic one. Probably you're already aware about it, is guesstimates or market sizing problems, right? These are also very common in the product interviews. Problem like estimate number of XYZ, right? Estimate number of four-wheelers cars in India. This could be very simple guesstimate, and it can go to much more complicated guesstimates as well. But let's take a simpler example. Now here, how do we approach this problem? Is basically, first of all, we clarify all the unclear terms in the question, right? Here just we have mentioned example, we have just said four-wheeler cars. So are we talking about cars which are in currently used, or are we also considering the cars we are getting built, and are we also considering the cars which are, let's say, currently in the scrap, right? So this is a very important clarifying question which we should be asking, right? Another type of questions here, clarifying questions would be, let's say, if you are saying about car, are we also considering public car and private cars as well? And what are the different type of car we are considering as a part of in the consideration set, right? So all the clarifying questions here we should be asking. Second one is basically breaking down the numbers into 3-5 smaller, easy to estimate pieces, right? Let's say we said that cars, okay, we are talking about all the possible cars in India, right? So then of course we'll have to break it down into 3 segments. Let's say, for example, one is public cars, like someone commercial cars, commercial or private, right? This could be 2 major segments. In the commercial, then we can further break it down in terms of the cars which are currently in scrap, the cars which are currently running in India, running on roads, right? Similarly, other segment as well. Further, we can then break it down into urban area, rural area, right? And then we can break it down in 3-5 steps so that we have, let's say, 5-6 elements, different pieces. So the good one interesting idea about doing it is basically breaking down it into a mathematical equation, right? Let's say we want to estimate A. So just write a mathematical equation here, A equal to B into C plus D into E, and then pick each of these element B, C, D, E and estimate each of them individually, right? So the third point is that only that estimate each piece using maths and background knowledge. So here basically our understanding about in general world or in general product, it comes into use. So basically we can call out all the assumptions in the process as well. Let's say we are saying that urban population is 30% of total overall India population, right? So it's an assumption, but it's very close by assumption. We should call it out. We should not directly, use it in our calculations, right? There could be a lot of such assumptions, but it's very important to call out all the major assumptions here. Then basically, let's say we have estimated 4 such elements here, 4 such parameters here, then consolidating all these pieces into arriving at a final result. Of course, exact number nobody knows and it doesn't matter. But what matters is basically it should be in a decent range and you should be able to cross verify it, right? Whenever you are approaching a guesstimate problem, solve with one approach and verify that number approximated by some other parameters as well, right? Let's say you have done a lot of math calculations and you arrived at one number, and then find a secondary validatory thought for that, saying that, okay, I read somewhere in the news that 5% of the people use cars in India. So by that approximate calculation, it is matching in a similar range. So that's basically kind of a validation to your own result solution. If you are following 2 approaches, it's less likely that you are following a arriving at a wrong solution, right? And another aspect here is, of course, feel free to approximate calculations, because sometimes if the guesstimate is huge, there could be a lot of calculations involved. So tip 1 is basically know basic demographics of India, like population, urban, rural, state, family size, etc. That helps in doing your approximation, right? Let's just have a quick look at the 7th and final point, which is type of cases, which are ideation problem statement, right? Where sometimes it could be very open-ended, like how can YouTube help its creator to leverage their communities? So there is very interesting framework or way of thinking about it is basically a divergent thinking and convergent thinking. This is very useful in a lot of creative problem solving, right? Let's say when we have this problem, right? How can YouTube help its creators to leverage their communities, right? So in the divergent thinking part, you won't focus on what are the constraints. You will just want what matters here is basically quantity even over quality. So you just list down all the possible ideas which are popping up in your mind, right? It, of course, you have some structure around it, but you don't limit yourself with the constraint. And then so idea is basically to create a lot of choices, that okay, these are the 3-4 different segments which this product can be taken into. Now once you reach a midpoint here, you have a lot of such choices available, then you start evaluating each of them and filtering out and selecting the useful idea out of it, and then that basically conversion part of it starts, right? And then after conversion, in the conversion part, you reach out to a solution that's saying, okay, I analyzed all these 10-15 different ideas. This was my criteria for evaluation of these idea, and based on this evaluation, this is the one solution which I think is more suitable for this kind of problem, right? So this is a divergent and convergent thinking, which is, it is specifically mapped with this case, but basically in general in life also this is very useful whenever we are thinking about any open type of creative problem, right? So yeah, that's majorly a certain type of cases I wanted to cover in this part of this session. So if you notice, there are some frameworks which we have used in these slides, right? The frameworks are very useful tools to solve the problem or structure your thoughts and communicate with interviewers. So I would suggest that you should follow this framework, not by like line to line. Of course, feel free to modify this framework, even create your own frameworks to solve the problems which are posed to you. Right. So with this, we come into this part of discussion, and Jumping on to the next section, it's just a list of some of the preparatory sources which you can follow. I'll just spend a couple of minutes on this and then we'll open it for questions. Right. So for PM resources books, I would highly recommend the first two books here, Cracking the PM Interview and Case Interview Cracked. These are very common books read by almost every PM who appears for the interviews, and you shouldn't miss it. You should read it. And the first one is more of a reading material. Second one is more of a practice material. Third book is basically the product book, which is ebook launched by Product School. It's also a very interesting book. It's 300 pages book, but it's very go-to guide for referring certain fundamentals of product management cycle. Another type of books you can follow basically are the case preparation ebooks by online communities and business schools, right? Like PM School or Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, SB, etc. Right? They publish very interesting case books. So these case books might not be publicly available. So, but I would suggest reach out to your friends who are in these colleges, and then if they have a copies of it, you can of course discuss about that with them. Additional books, there are a lot of books in the market published by a lot of very famous product managers or in that domain. So Hooked is one book which is really nice. I really like that book. The Design of Everyday Thing. This is actually a textbook in MBA schools as well. There is another book which is Mom Test. This is also a very common, interesting book. Then there is a Lean Product Playbook, which is also an interesting book which you can refer to in terms of understanding the complete end-to-end product building cycle. Right. Of course, these are just few books. There are a lot of books you can go through. But as a starter, I would suggest you cover up these books in first couple of months, and then you can of course explore more such options. Right. Another question typically is asked is what are the courses certification you can try for or you should do for your improving your resume, right? So I would suggest a basic courses on SQL is a must in this today's world, right? Where PM is supposed to do all the major analytics as well. So SQL, I would suggest, is kind of a must for most of the PM roles, not all, of course. But in addition, if you can get hands-on experience on some Python or R type of exercises, that will be huge plus addition. Then, of course, you can do some basic machine learning courses just to understand what are the different, models, machine learning models, which are used very rigorously in a lot of places. Design thinking processes is also a very interesting course, which generally helps in structure your thoughts. So that is something you can opt for, right? Then huge learning source is basically online blogs, YouTube channels, even Twitter feeds, right? A lot of interesting newsletters online like Product Hunt, TechCrunch, where you can follow technical news and whatever the product launches are happening in the tech world. Another is product tear downs by online communities. So if you have noticed even on the LinkedIn or even on their respective websites, they have a lot of product tear downs. So they take up one product and then launch it as a competition. Then 10-15 different people submit their case solutions, and then these communities select the winner out of it and then publish the content by winner also, right? So you can go through that content. It's very interesting. You can also, of course, first work out your own solution and then compare it with the winner solution as well. So that's very interesting. Another is a mock interviews on various YouTube channels like the Product Folks, Exponent, PM Exercise. These are very interesting YouTube channels where you can find a lot of good mock interviews. Very interesting part is online peer mock interviews preparation, right? You can of course do it with your friends or seniors from your respective colleges, or if you want to do it with someone who is unknown to you, you can follow some online platforms which provide this platform, right? One of the best recommendation I can give is Stellar Peers. This is very interesting product, very interesting platform where you find a lot of people who are looking for mock interviews. So how it goes is give and take. You take a mock interview of someone and someone will take a mock interview of yours, right? Not the same person, but of course you can do it with different people. Then there's product management exercises. This also website is very interesting and for mock interviews, right? Then part we should be learning about, you can find your own sources for these cases. Is basically on tech side, I would suggest, highly recommend you should learn about how APIs work, right? And how generally how code modules are structured. If you just have the rough understanding on this also, that helps a lot in visualizing how the tech products can be built. Analytics, in analytics domain, what are the databases, different type of databases, how the data pipelines are made, how data events are logged in various tools like Google Analytics, how we can analyze them, right? These aspects you can read, just Google it, you will find a lot of resources. You can just pick up top resources and go through them. In terms of design, you can read about UI, user interface or user experiences principles followed across industries, and even by the digital products which you probably are using day-to-day life, right? So yeah, these are some of the resources you can start with. There is no end to resource as such, but these are I recommend resources for you to get started with. So I think yeah, that's this is all the content I wanted to cover in this time. We can, Niharika, so we can open for the questions.
Right. Huh. So we don't have any questions as of now, but I can see that we still have attendees. If you have any questions, this is I mean, if you can post it now, we can sort of be happy to address it. Since we don't have any questions so far, we had some questions from people who registered for this webinar. So I wanted to take one or two, since you're already running short of time, so we won't take many of them. One question that I think you have already
Sure.
answered is the courses and certifications that would add to your resume. So I'm not going to get into that. Another part is that which is a very frequent question that people ask, is that how to switch from software engineering to product manager. Although I think this is a whole new topic in itself, but still, if you can,
Yeah.
throw some light on it.
Right. So of course, when you think about breaking into PM role, right, there are two options. One is you can move internally in your respective companies, or you can of course switch to some other company where you find a relevant role. So what we talked about is majorly when you're looking out for a different company, interviewing for that. But first one aspect is completely different topic, right? When you're within the same firm, you want to move, right? So if you take my example also, when I also kind of moved from analytics to data science when I was in my earlier company. So that was horizontal move, right? Similarly, what you can do here as a software developer, you have a lot of leverage in terms of understanding about technical aspects about it. Analytics also up to certain level, the tech side of analytics, but what you can start doing is whatever work, give some time to yourself, right? Let's say 5-6 months. Then over the next 6 months, whatever products you will be developing as a software developer, get into the other two aspects of them as well, right? Apart from the tech, get into the analytics aspect of it, get into the business aspects of it, understand about what you are building, right? Why you are building. Then also the design aspects of it, right? If it is a front-end side project you're working on, right? What are the principles? Why certain decisions were made, right? In terms of, they might seem like a smaller decision, but what was the thought process behind those decisions? So these are the other aspects you can start learning about. That's for your own benefit to learn about it. But how do you actually put it across in your team, probably in as to your manager, is basically a different aspect again. So you'll have to clearly highlight your intention in terms of your interest, right? Everyone want um, their peers to grow and follow their interest. So definitely your manager will be very welcoming in terms of what your interests are. So the communicating your interest very clearly is very important, so that over the next 6 months, whatever time you have allotted to yourself, you can clearly say that okay, over the next 6 months I will stay in the software development team, but I would want projects which are more inclined toward product side of it, so that I can hone those skills. And probably after 6 months you can evaluate myself on those skills required for a PM, and then that judgment can be done, right? So even if you want to move internally, there will be a layer of kind of interview which will uh, clear you for that particular role. So but you can be very transparent with your manager and your colleagues, and also side by side keep honing these other skills. Yeah, so that would be my response to your